Now that we finished talking about attracting a $10,000 client, now I want to talk to you about actually pricing a $10,000 job. All right. Now, historically, there are many ways people price projects, right? We got the most popular, the hourly rate, right? That's when, you charge X per hour. A lot of people say, take your bills, divide about this, divide about hours, and then you get 30 an hour, 50 an hour. So you charge per hour for what it is that you do. Now, the hourly rate work on certain instances. If it's like a small enough task, that could make sense. But the hourly rate actually penalizes you, especially when you're good. If you're good at what you do, hourly rate actually penalizes you because you're so good, you can do it quick and at good quality. What it take you half an hour may take somebody who's less experienced 3 hours. And so as a result, you'll be making a sixth of what they make because you're so good. And even though, you can say you could charge higher hourly rates, over time, hourly rate just hurt professionals. Same thing relatively applies to per week, per project, per month. And you also got the other one, per value, right? Based on value. Now, the value is one where, it makes a lot of sense. The only issue is sometimes value is subjective and it's really difficult to actually find out what that value of somebody is. And so, Jacques, how do you go about pricing the client? Well, my recommendation to you is instead of pricing the client by any of the above, we actually price them by their budget. Simple, right? Assuming their budget is equal to or greater than your MLE. Your MLE, which is your minimum level of engagement, or the least amount of money you able to accept to do a certain project. And so now we're gonna talk about how to actually figure out your MLE to then figure out the budget that you're gonna charge your clients for and how to make it all come together. Look, I'm gonna grab the iPad and we'll get started. So look, MLE has to be less than or equal to your budget. The budget has to be greater than the MLE. And we'll break that down, right? So as long as the client's budget fits within this formula, then they're potentially a good fit. Now, this all assumes that we've already gone through the process of pre-qualifying the client, make sure that they're a good fit, the problem that they want to solve, we actually solve that, the skills they're looking for, we actually do it, etc., etc. With that said, I'm gonna take a little detour because I want to take you somewhere else, right? First, I want you to, in the process of trying to figure out your MLE, I want you to think about, let's just talk about your monthly bills, right? What are your monthly responsibilities? So for example, let's say you have rent. Let's say your rent is $1,500, right? Now, if you live with somebody or you taken care of or whatever, I would say how much would rent be where you live or at a place that you want to live? Just give us an idea. Never leave that number empty because we don't want unrealistic numbers. We want something that is realistic, especially if you were to do this thing officially, right? So we're going to look at your rent. We're going to type in car. This will include car insurance and car note and payment if you have one. Let's say $800 a month. So $1,500, $800 for the car. Let's say we got cable and then we'll go utilities. Again, if you don't pay these things, just imagine what it would cost for these things, right? So let's say cable is like $100, utilities is like $150. And it all depends where you're from. You're in New York here. In New York, you ain't gonna get much like that. $1,500, you're gonna get a bathroom, right? So, but anyways, if you're in another city, you can have access to more space. So let's add a couple more things, right? Let's say you also food, right? I'm gonna do food. It'll be a general topic which includes buying food, like ordering and groceries. So let's say we put $800 a month. I don't know if that's enough, but let's just say $800 a month for food. And then, going out, not the food part, but just like hanging out, lally, whatever, right? So we're gonna put an extra $400 on like just whatever stuff relating to entertainment, like fun. I'm gonna call this fun. And then lastly, we're gonna talk about, let's do savings, why not, right? So let's say in this case, you're saving $750 a month. So now I'm gonna take these and I'm going to put them all together, right? So we got 1,500 plus 800. We're gonna do the math real quick on that. So if my math is correct, and pardon me if it's not, but if it is, I think we got 4,500 here. Right? So that's your number, right? This is your monthly bill. $45 a month is the least amount of money you need to make in whatever you do. This is your job. This is your business. This is whatever you do for a living. You got to be able to make at least this much. And I didn't even talk about student loans yet. So we're going to keep it $4,500. So keeping that in mind now, I want you to introduce you to the freelancer framework that we're going to use to manage your money, right? And so it looks like this. This is the formula that we use to manage your money. So it goes by 50, 30, 15, 5. And what these stand for is 50 stands for profit or draw or owner's draw. 30 stands for expenses. 15 is taxes. And then 5 is going to be savings. We'll call it like that, right? Sometimes I also make it profit as a separate kind of profit. Sometimes I'll make it investing, whatever, but we'll just call it saving for simple math right now. So this equation here should equal to 100%. And so in other words, what this means is any money that you get from your business, it should go through this funnel here. So we said 50, 30, 15, 5. 50 plus 30 is 80, plus 15 is 95, plus 5 is 100. So what does that mean? That means that if you get a project that's $1,000 from one client, another project that's $500 from another client, and another project that's about $2,000 from another client. I'm gonna move this over right here, right? We're gonna do that. All right, so with that said, let's look at these. According to these, based on the equation we said above, 50, 30, etc., out of this project, $500 is gonna be a profit. So we'll make this the profit column. We'll make this the expense column. We'll make this the taxes and then savings, right? So with that said, we got 500 for this, 300 for this, 150 for this, 50 for this. So if you get $1,000 from a client, your job is supposed to be, and this is, and again, future, we'll talk more about this stuff about how to actually manage your money so that you can save for the future and you could make sure that your budgets are budgeting. This is the formula. More about this later when we start talking about the 10K freelancer. But anywho, so you make $1,000, you break it up into this. That means that $500 is your payment from that transaction. A lot of times we make the mistake of we get paid $1,000, we're like, all right, boom, I got $1,000. What are we doing now? And we fail to save for expenses that we're gonna need to spend, taxes, and the list goes on. So this is the equation I want you to follow. If your revenue is 250K or less, this equation will work for you, right? So now same thing for 500, right? So 250, 150, 75, and then 25, right? Same thing. And then for 2,000, it's just basically double. 1,000, 600. This one is going to be 300, and this is going to be 100, right? So in a case like this, if in 1 month your business made 3,500 based on these numbers, you yourself as a team member, your take home amount is this number here. That's what you transfer to your personal bank account at the end of the month to say that's how much money I made. And then you then transfer 1,050 to a separate bank account labeled expenses. The rest is history. So we'll just stop there, but I just wanted to do this math real quick with you, and it's important. So now let's focus on this profit section here, right? This profit section basically implies that if you have to make a certain amount of money per month, basically that amount of money that you have to make is gonna represent 50% of your revenue. So in other words, if you learn that you actually have to make $4,500 a month, that's how much your profit has to be, then that means that you got to multiply that by 2, where you get 9,000, which means that's how much money your business has to make per month. Not would be nice to make, not one day it should make that. That's how much it has to make for this business to work. Now you start understanding why you actually genuinely cannot work with RPs, because it's very difficult for you to make $9,000 a month working with RPs, especially if the RP is paying you $300, $250, $1,000, or anything like that, right? So based on this, now you got your new sales goal, right? The goal that you need to make is $9,000 a month, which comes up to 108 if I'm not mistaken per year, right? So $9,000. Let's bring that down here, 9K. So that's the first number we have, right? That's how much money we have to make as a revenue. Then the next thing I want you to do is think about your full production, right? We'll bring it all together now. Couple of videos ago, we talked about full production. My question to you is, how long do your full productions take to do? So for example, if a website, if I'm coming to do a line of code, maybe I could do that in a day or two when I'm done. But if I'm doing a full production of the site, from meeting the customer to learning about their industry, to research, to wireframe, to this, to that, that may take me 3 to 4 months. Or if I'm doing photography, it may be like, yeah, you're just shooting for 1 day, right? Yeah. But it may take me a whole month to plan the shoot, get mood board, get approval, get models, get this, get that. So I want you to think about, what is your full production? What is the full... So I hear my daughter in the background, so if you hear her, that's her. So yeah, think about your full production, and I want you to think about how long would it take for you to properly go through that process for a client, right? So for example, when it comes to website, it used to take us about 4 months to go through a full website project. Or when it came to photography, it would take about a month. Our company Shade, where we do influencer marketing campaigns, it takes us a minimum of 3 months, right? So every type of thing you do has a certain time frame. So let's just say we got 9,000 is the revenue, and then we're gonna say 4 months to do your full production. Next question you gotta ask yourself is, how many projects can you handle within that time at the same time, right? So if it's gonna take me 4 months to build a site, how many websites can I do at the same time? Is the answer 5 sites? Is it 4? Is it 2 sites, right? So how many websites can you do at the same time? So we got $9,000 in revenue is the goal you have to make, and you take 4 months per project. How many projects can you handle at the same time? So let's just say the scenario is I can handle 2 projects, right? 2 projects at the same time. So then the next thing I want you to do is divide 2 by 4. So divide project by month. And what we're looking to find right now is roughly, technically, how many projects can you actually handle per month? The average of it. For example, for simple math, if you had said 4 months is how long it takes you to do a project, and you could do 4 projects during that time, within that 4 months, basically the average would just average to about 1 project a month. Although it takes 4 months to do all 4, by the end of the 4, if you finish all 4, you average 1 project per month. We're just trying to get that per month number, right? And so based on this example, your per month number now becomes 0.5 or half a project per month. So what does this number mean? How does it help, et cetera, et cetera? So then what you do is, to be able to make what you need to make on a revenue side, you got to figure out how many projects. This is where us trying to find your MLE, your minimum level of engagement, right? Because this 0.5 of projects that you do per month represent the revenue that you're making. So if half of a project equals 9,000, a full project is 18,000. So based on this math that I just made, I know it's a lot of math. Work with me. Don't worry about this though. We got a calculator for y'all to do all this math. I just want you to understand where it comes from. Your MLE in this case is going to be 18K. Or in other words, that's how much you have to charge per project to be able to keep all this going in the way that it needs to go, right? So let's break the math up even more. And I'm gonna grab my phone here to do some quick math for you, right? If you didn't want to do this way that I did it, let's look at it from an annual standpoint. If every 4 months you're doing 2 projects, right? Every 4 months you're doing 2 projects, then 4 months times 3 is 12 months, which gets to the year. So it's 2 projects times 3, is going to be 6 projects. So in other words, based on this, you can do 6 projects a year, 6 per year. And then your revenue, you need to make 9,000 per month, right? And so I did the math earlier. So for example, we'll do 9,000 times 12 is going to be that 108 number I gave you earlier, right? So 6 projects a year split between $108,000. What's the math? 108 divided by 6, 18,000. So that's the other way to get to this number, which is basically letting you know that's how much. If you can only handle 6 projects a year, given the circumstances, then you have to charge a minimum of $18,000 per project. That's your MLE. Then and only then do we say the amount of money you charge your clients is not by value, by budget, by whatever. It's at a minimum of $18,000. It's their budget, assuming it's higher or equal to $18,000. Now you may be like, all right, hold up, bro. I charge $800. You talking about some $18,000. Now here's the thing, right? Remember we had our niche earlier. We said one of the stipulations of the niche is, can they afford me, right? Can they actually afford me? And the way you figure out if somebody could afford you is actually, is the problem that they have worth $18,000? Like the problems we spoke about earlier, does somebody have an $18,000 problem? Or for example, could I imagine me solving that problem for them will potentially make them more than this number in the next year? If the answer is no, then it's probably not a good fit, right? And so for you now, you got to rearrange these numbers. Maybe 18,000 scares you. You may be like, all right, Jacques, hold up. All right. Yes, it'll take me two months, right? 2 projects. But if I'm being honest, and if I'm doing this full time, which is the goal, because we're doing all this math full time for anybody who's not full time, Jacques, all right, you know what? I'm getting over my head, man. I probably could really handle 8 projects at the same time within these time. I'm like, okay, 8 projects then. If that's the case, then your average per month is going to be 2 projects a month. And so if your average project is 2 per month and you make $9,000 per month is what you need, then your MLE in this case can be a modest $4,500, right? Because if you need 2 a month at a minimum, at least that's the max you can handle right now, right? Then $4,500 is going to be the new MLE, which may feel more achievable for some folks, but I want to challenge you to say there's money out there. Why not that money be for you, right? And so $4,500 MLE in this second example that I did. And if you do the math and multiply by 8, whatever, divide by the number, you're going to get this number here. So then how do you actually apply that, right? And so now that I'm equipped with my MLE, this is how I actually use it in conversation. So first thing I do is whenever somebody asks me a question, I make sure that I deflect it back by asking them a question. So for example, when somebody says, how much do you charge? I ask them, what's your budget, right? But that's a game we all play. We all play the game of, yeah, but who's gonna say it first, whatever, right? Next time you come up in that situation, I want you to say the number first. Now, I want you to say the number first, and I know that may be contrary to what you've learned, but I want you to be the first to say the number. There's a guy named Blair Enns that says, whoever says the price first wins. And the reason he says that is because if we're both talking about a thing, right? If you say the number first, you're like, okay, well, I'll do this for 1,000. In my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, damn. I was thinking 500. Now I gotta find my way to meet you, and I gotta find my way closer to you. So in that case, now because you say you do it for 1,000, although I'm new, like I was saying, man, I'll pay 500. I'm like, okay, maybe I could try to offer 600 or 700. I'm negotiating against myself in my head. That's what we naturally do as human beings, right? Because we want to be as close as possible to that individual. Or if the numbers are so far off, we're like, yeah, it's not a good fit. Peace out. Bye. This is why Blair says whoever says the price first wins, because whoever says the price first leaves the other person to have to negotiate against themselves to meet them closer to that number. On the flip side, if I told this individual, I think I'm willing to spend 500 on this, they'll be like, I can't tell him 1,000 now, right? Because if I'm doing that tells him 1,000, that's double the number he wants. I gotta meet him closer to get him close. All right, bro, would you do it for 700, right? And so they're negotiating to your terms versus the other way around. So you're probably thinking, what if I say a number that's actually lower than what they had in mind, right? Like, what if I'm like, I'll do this for 1,000, and they were willing to pay 5,000, excuse me. That's when we're gonna start talking about price anchoring. From this point forward, not only do I want you to say the price first, I want you to always anchor the price before you actually say it. So that means we're never gonna give a client a single number ever again. So let's break it down, right? So if a client asks for the budget, instead of saying, oh, my MLE is 18,000 or 4,500, what's your budget? I'll take that MLE number and multiply it by either 5 or 10. 5 if you're like, I don't know, Jack, this is a little new to me. 10 if you're really bold, right? And so let's look at an example for both 5 and 10. So 5, for example, on the 18,000, I'll make the number 20,000 just for simple math. They'll be like, how much do you charge? So it varies. Our projects range between 18,000 and 100,000. Do you have a specific number you're trying to stay within? Right? I gave them a price range, and 18,000 or 20, it's a lot of money. But when they have that number anchored by a much dramatically higher number, it makes that 18,000 look a lot less. Now, again, remember, we're talking to specific people we've already qualified, right? We've qualified them with our problem. We've qualified them where our positioning. They already know what they're here for. And furthermore, we've qualified them, right? And there's some processes and stuff we'll talk about in the future of how to actually qualify the client. But we've already done that process. So these are not people that's always going to be so sticker shock of these numbers. But in the way that you navigate that conversation and price that client, these are the ways you go about doing so. So in that case, or if you look at the 4,500 person or call it 5,000, I may say some of our projects may fall 5,000 to 50,000. It really depends. What's your budget? Do you have a number you're trying to stay within, right? Those are the processes that I go through when I find a client's budget. The first part of that is price anchoring. I hit them with the anchor. And what happens normally is if my budget, the 5X or the 10X that I do allows me to be safe. Now, granted, if let's say the client's budget was more than 10X, I don't care. I was already gonna charge them 4,500. If I told them 45,000 and their budget was really 100,000, I'll gladly take the 45,000, right? And so this is why we gotta figure out the MLE and make that the lowest number you would charge. It's the minimum level of engagement. Anything above that is a W, but anything less is a L, right? And so we wanna make sure that we use that number and go forward. And then if that's the case, you figure out your MLE, then you slowly start charging and moving yourself towards that number. You may not be able to go from charging $2,000 to $10,000 or $30,000, but you can work your way there little by little. So that's the first way I find the client's budget is through the price anchoring. And I say my number first and I give them a price range. The second way that I find their budget is through the technique that I call the hot in here technique. Hot in here technique. And generally the way that comes up is a client would go, whoa, hold up, player. $5,000 to $50,000. How do you get a range like, right? What is that range? What would be? And so that's when I go and say, look, you're hiring me as director, right? You hire me to help solve your problem. State that problem, right? You hire me to help you solve whatever problem. And so for me, within that price range, based on your budget, I'll be able to know which of the solutions that I have available would make the most sense for your problem. Here's a scenario. So for example, if your problem was that you were hot, H-O-T hot, right? If that was your problem and your budget was $1, I would get you a bottle of water. That's a potential solution towards your problem. It doesn't solve it all the way, but it's a good solution for the budget. If your budget was $25, I get you a fan from Walmart. If your budget was $50, maybe I get you a used AC from OfferUp or whatever. If your budget was $100, I get you a brand new AC. Budget is $500, I get you an AC that's with smart controls and automation and all that kind of stuff. And if your budget was $3,000 to $5,000, I get you central air, HVAC, the whole nine. All of these different solutions help you solve your problem. But when you give me your budget, it'll help me better understand which solution makes the most sense for you. Whenever I say that to a client and I give them that example, so far, knock on wood, I have never seen a client not understand why I need their budget in the way that I go about pricing things, which is that it's not a one size fits all. The same McDonald's, Mickey D's, we charge this price for a flight. Nah, it's based on your budget, assuming that it's higher than your MLE, and then I'll propose to you solutions based on that. And since I'm offering you a full production, having access to the whole budget really truly does tell me what I have. So going back to construction, if you're like, I need pavers, I need my driveway done, and your budget is $1,000, I'd be like, go to YouTube. But if your budget was something that makes more sense, I actually don't know how much it costs for pavers, but if it's something that makes sense, I'd be like, okay, well, based on that budget, we can get concrete, but we can go buy used concrete from Lowe's because that, whatever, right? But if your budget is higher, oh, I can get my Blink guy. He will do this, he'll do a pattern, and with the budget, we can actually get a gazebo, get the covering, get the ring. You have options to be able to propose things to people. Same thing with the photography, right? Based on the budget, if they ask you to break down what these different things could entail, it'll let you know, how big of a location can I have? Can I get makeup artists on set? Can I get assistant photographers? Can I rent the best equipment? Can I get the best lighting? Or am I only reduced to just the bare minimum one camera setup? That budget will help you be able to make those kind of decisions. So that is why it's important to find the budget. So to recap, we don't charge the client by the hour, by none of the stuff. We charge them based on your MLE, assuming that it's higher than, based on their budget, assuming that it's higher than their MLE. And I'll talk to you about how to find their MLE. That's how you do it. Now that you have all these pieces, you have the how to track the client, you have your niche, your problem, all those kind of things, and your process, right? You have the, how to price the client. The next video, we're going to talk about how to actually write your 10K proposal, your winning proposal that you're going to use to actually close the client and take your business to another level. So let's go and catch that video.